Alright, so this is going to be part 2 of the MacBook Pro model A1398 mid 2015. So this is actually going to contain a bonus part of the video. So right now, what happened, I don't know, but this thing just fell off for no reason. Okay, so this little metal piece, so we are going to be doing some soldering. Alright, so I got this. I'm going to put this on this foam pad. Okay. Set this MacBook aside. Let's see, where can I put this? Alright, so we are going to be soldering this metal piece back in place. Let me see if I can kind of do a close-up. I don't know if this will work out or not. I might end up melting the thing below it, so I'm going to have to put something underneath. Okay, so this metal piece here, I don't know why, but a lot of times Apple soldering is not too good for these things. Where is it? I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna have to put something underneath just so it doesn't melt the board. Let's see how well I do this. This plastic should be good enough. I will just put it underneath away from there just to raise the board. Okay, I don't know if you saw that, but this is one of those fan things that I'll show you later what it is. Okay, so we're going to try and get this in the center. So this piece came out. Normally what you would do is add a little flux here, and then you can add some solder. But what I got is this solder paste. So what I'm going to do is add a little of this solder paste onto this. Okay. It doesn't need much because this is basically just flux and solder. Okay, let me clean off the dried up stuff. Okay, so this is just more flux and solder. Let me see if I can get that in there. And because for some reason Apple doesn't put enough, this should melt down and then hold the thing back in place. Okay. Alright, so we'll get a little bit over there, a little bit on there. Okay. Oh no, somebody's calling me again. Alright, so we'll set that aside. Alright, so what you do after that, you just get the little piece, line it up on there. Okay, make sure it's lined up right back in the center. Okay, you can tell because if you move it around, then it will expose the silver parts, and you don't want the silver parts exposed. There we go. I'm going to clean off my soldering iron. Alright, you don't want any solder stuck to your soldering iron or it's going to stick to that connector. Alright, and then just touch it to this piece and hold it there. Oops. The tricky part is getting it to stay in place. You can use the screwdriver to kind of hold it down in place, okay? And then just heat it up. Alright, so now we're just heating up this metal piece. It's not heating enough. I might have to add flux to the outside. This usually would probably be better with a hot air station so you can heat the whole thing at once. But hopefully this will work. Okay, so I'm trying to just heat up this metal piece to be hot enough to melt the solder underneath. I might have to add flux around the outside so that I can get the heat to flow in. So let's see if I can do it that way because this doesn't seem to want to work. Okay, I'm going to end up burning myself. Let's see. This piece got stuck in there. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll actually add a little of the paste on the outside just so it can get a better thermal conductivity. Okay. Let me get a different screwdriver to put there. That won't go into the screw hole. Okay, make sure the soldering iron is clean. Alright, and let's heat up that little thing that I just added there. Okay, you should see the smoke come out. Alright, since I added some thermal paste to that, it is allowing the heat to transfer better. You'll see smoke coming out. That's how you know the flux is burning. And then when the smoke stops, that's how you know the flux is all burned up. You don't really need to burn all the flux. Okay. Just when there's not that much smoke left. All right. Can remove the heat source. Let it cool back down. All right. I don't know if I blocked the view. Sorry. All right. And it should be good now. So here you can see this piece is holding in place now. Okay. So there you go. That was somewhat of a bonus thing. I wasn't intending to have to do that, but for some reason it just fell off. All right. So I'm gonna re-tin my soldering iron off camera, sorry. Okay. Now we got that soldering part done. Let me zoom back in. Oops, zoom back out, not in. There we go. All right, so now we are going to do the reassembly process. So here there is some solder there now, so you can actually tell it's been worked on. There you go. But yeah, I'm gonna clean off the flux from there. Oops, let's zoom back out. Okay, so set that down. I also need to show you how I removed those little fan pieces because I didn't show that in the video. So let me set my soldering iron aside. Okay. Now I'm going to use a little isopropyl alcohol and clean off the flux. That's the little shiny stuff that was left on the board. So I'm going to clean that off. There we go. Just a little more over here. So I'm just using a piece of paper towel or napkin with rubbing alcohol on it. There we go. Okay, so now you can see it's a lot cleaner. Let's see if I can show this. It's a lot cleaner. You can still see the solder that I added there to get a better heat conductivity, but other than that, the board is clean. Okay. All right, so now we're going to show how to reassemble the MacBook. Sorry for that added stuff. Okay, that's probably too zoomed in. Let's zoomed out. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna grab the replacement keyboard battery assembly. I did have to transfer these pieces over from the old one. So I'll show you how to do that. These pieces, they come out, there shouldn't be a screw here, but this, you just go underneath with a pry tool or your fingernail and you kind of lift it up and it pops out like that, okay? So to put it back, you just line up the screw thing and then you kind of just wiggle it, lift up this back piece again and then push it back in place. Same thing with this one, but there is a screw there that you will need to remove using a T5 screwdriver. All right, so remove this screw. Right, and then underneath, just lift it up just like that. It might be a little stuck when you do this. This one, just line it back up. Again, lift it slightly, and then you can push it back down. If it's stuck, just don't worry, just use a little more force and it will pop out. Since I already pulled it out earlier, it came out really easily, but normally it'll be a little stiff, okay? There we go. So now we will put the Logicboard back in the MacBook. So let me see if I need to clean it up a little bit first. I will brush the dust off from underneath just to be safe. Okay. And under here, let me show you on the motherboard or Logicboard. This is the screen close detection thing. So it has this little raised part with I believe it's like a coil in there. And that's how it can detect the magnetic field. But anyways, this connector, if you need to replace it, you can. It's the same as the LCD LVDS connector. Just flip up the little latch and then you can pull it back. But again, I'm going to leave it in there, okay? Alright, so let's put the motherboard back in. So the best way to do it is you can put this side first with the MagSafe connector. Alright, if you have your charger without it being plugged in, since I have a little adapter, I'll show you. But if you have your charger, what you do is you take the little MagSafe charger and put it there just to hold that in place. So you'll make sure that it's in properly. Okay, then you want to make sure and hold all these cables up. Actually, let me zoom in so you can get a better view. But you want to hold all these cables up and out of the way. Okay, that's the trickiest part. And then you want to get the headphone jack in. All right, so you can do that first. Line up the headphone jack. Again, make sure your charger isn't plugged in. So right now I just have this adapter, but you can use your charger to do this. Okay. All right, and then make sure these metal pins on the end of here get pushed down so they go underneath this metal piece. You don't want them on top. Okay. All right, so now the tricky part again is holding all of these connectors out of the way. If you can't get them out of the way, like this keyboard one, it always ends up going underneath. You can use a little screwdriver or toothpick to pull them out later. Okay, so the other one, make sure the keyboard backlight cable as well is going out on top. That one usually ends up curling itself back in and going underneath, so you do want to make sure that ends up on top. Okay, so let's pull these cables out. All right. Just like this. Again, the keyboard connector is a little tricky. There we go. All right. Then just get it back in place. Again, same thing with the keyboard backlight connector. Okay, just like that. Got it on top. All right. Oh no, it shifted itself. So yeah, this one you might have to do multiple attempts because it is tricky to get it all lined up. The main thing you want to do to know that you have it lined up properly is the headphone jack. Let me show you here once I get all of this in correctly. This is always a pain to do. Okay. All right, so the headphone jack here, it will be flush with the, I don't know if you can see it there. It should go flush with the outside. All right, so you will have to wiggle it around to make sure. All right, then let's get all these connectors out again and do it again. The keyboard connector again is always a pain, so you might have to use a screwdriver or something like this to help lift it back up. Okay. All right, let's get the battery connector in. Sometimes you will have to do this part, the headphone jack, and move it around afterwards because it is kind of difficult to line it up. Here we go, got all those connectors. Again, don't forget the keyboard backlight connector. All right, so there we go. Speaker cable. All right, so let's line this up. Oh, this battery connector, you might, if there are the two screws here, you might want to remove those. So we didn't have these screws in the other one because we took them out already. So again, you might want to take this out because this plastic stuff, it will get in the way if you can't lift up that out of the way. So let me actually remove that real quick. Okay. Let's pull up this stuff. All right. All right, so we got those 2 screws out. All right, so now lift up the battery board. There we go. That made it a lot easier. There. Okay, so once again, you want to make sure that the headphone jack is flush there. Hopefully you can actually see it. Okay. And you want to make sure it stays flush. So once you get the board back in, you want to check that all the connectors are on top. You got the keyboard connector, you got the trackpad connector, the battery, the speaker connector, and then you got the keyboard backlight connector, the microphone connector, and then this other speaker connector on this side, sorry. And also make sure that this is aligned in the notch properly. Okay, so once you get all of that, I like to take the MagSafe connector, make sure I'm kind of pulling on it lightly, and then put in the screws for that first. Okay. This makes sure that the charge port is flush against the metal case, the aluminum housing. Okay, so we'll take those 2 screws. I probably should have shown the screw layout again, but in my first video I showed the screw layout, so if you aren't sure which screws go where, if you already took yours apart, watch part 1 of this, which is the disassembly. This one is the reassembly. So if you aren't sure where the screws came from, I put them out in a pattern on my desk so that you can see that. Alright, so I'm going to take this charge thing out. Okay, so now you want to reconnect all these connectors. So the speaker cable, just flip it over and then push it back down. Okay, the microphone connector, you want to just bend it back over. Let's see if I can zoom back in on these. Okay. Oops. Alright, and then just put it into the slot. Alright. Make sure it goes all the way in. Alright, you can use this little, the darker part is raised slightly, so I use my fingernail to kind of push on that. Alright, and then put the little latch back down. There we go. Then you got the, let's do the trackpad connector here. The keyboard connector is a little tricky, so let me show you that after this. Alright, so trackpad connector. And the speaker connector here, same thing as the other one, just line it up. And then push it straight down. Alright, just like that. Okay, then the keyboard backlight connector here, same thing, just make sure it's lined up and push it down. Alright, just like that. Okay, now for the keyboard connector. Let's see if I can show this here. Okay, so the keyboard connector, if it has this little pull tab, it'll help. But if it doesn't, you can just stick some tape on it and use it as a pull tab. So what you want to do, bend this down, make sure it goes into the slot straight through. Okay. Just like that, line it up, alright. And then you want to pull the little tab over it and then use that tab to pull the connector in. Alright, so you should see that the connector is going in almost all the way. Alright, then pull this little latch down and then you can fold this back. Again, if yours doesn't have this, you can just get a piece of tape and then use that to pull it over. Right, you don't want to plug the battery until you got everything else reconnected. Okay, so we got all of that in. Now we will put the fan. Okay, so I might have to zoom back out. Okay, so we'll take this fan, make sure all the latches are in the open position. All right, take the fan, line up the connector, and then just pull the connector in. All right, once you got that in, push the little latch back down, just like that. Okay, so we want to make sure to put these other sides back in before we put the fan. So we got the what do you call, IO board here. Okay, so the IO board, to make it easier, you can reconnect, oops, let's see here, you can reconnect this first. All right, so just like this, reconnect it, use this to pull it back together, flip the latch back over. Okay, then you want to angle this up like this, right? Make sure the metal tabs go underneath, and then slide it over. You will have to adjust the heatsink to go on top of this board. Okay. So lift both pieces up like I'm doing here, and then push the board down first, and then that will go on top of it. Okay, just like that. Okay, there we go. Let's see, now we can take this fan and put it back on top. Okay, hopefully this is all in view. All right, make sure that latches up. Take the fan, put it in the slot, and then put the latch back down. There we go. Okay, let's see here. Now let's put back all the screws. Okay, so first we will take, oh sorry, hopefully you can see that. We'll take this silver screw, the one that had the rubber piece on top, and we'll put that in the part where the heatsink is. Okay, tighten that up. Again, you want to make sure that the headphone socket is lined up in place. If you want, let me see if I can show this. You can push down on that, and then you can use this spot to kind of push it in place. Okay, and then we'll tighten up the screw here. All right, then you can put this rubber piece back on top. All right, take the first fan screw. For the fan screws, I always put them in loosely. Okay, so get the second fan screw. I'll show you why that is in a bit. All right, and then take the third fan screw. This one is like a bigger flat screw. So as you can see, the fan kind of moves around a little. So now that all the screws are in, I pull the fan towards this heatsink so it's as close as possible, and then I tighten down the screws. Okay, just like that. Okay, now the rubber piece you can push back down if you want. There are little things that grip in between the heatsink and the fan there. Okay, so now we'll take this next motherboard screw. This is one of the longer screws in the motherboard. I think they're actually the longest screws into the motherboard. So there's that one. And then the other screw back here is also the long screw, just like that one. Okay, so we got that. Then we got another motherboard screw down here. Okay, so then we got the bracket for the touchpad or the trackpad. Put that metal bracket on top. Grab one of the screws. So for this, for these brackets, I also put them in loosely, so that way I can grab the second screw, and then I can tighten it in. I can line it up and tighten it in. Okay, just like that. All right, now we'll take the two battery connector screws, lift up the plastic. Okay, put that screw in. Get the other one. Just like that. Go to the other side. Tighten it up. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now we got all these other connectors. So what we'll do is we'll get the wireless card first. Okay, put the wireless card slightly at an angle upwards, and then pull on the connector and the wireless card like this. All right, if you just push on the wireless card, I've had some people rip these connectors off. It's pretty rare, but just to be safe, I like to push on the connector and the wireless card at the same time. Okay, so we got the screw for the wireless card. It's a bigger screw, but it's short. Okay, so keep that in mind, because the fan screw that goes right above it is also bigger, but it's a longer screw. Okay, all right, tighten that down. Get the longer. All right, and then tighten. Don't tighten this all the way, just put it loosely. Okay, so let's see here. Let's put back the screw for this spot before we forget. So this screw goes underneath the SSD slot. Okay, so put that in. Alright, then we can put back the SSD. Make sure you have it the right way. There is a wider side and a shorter side, so the wider side goes towards the back. Alright, again, hold it up and then kind of push the connector while you push that, just like that. Drop it in place. We got another wider short screw for the SSD. Okay, oops, sorry, going out of view. Tighten that up. Alright. Okay, so now we got the other fan screw here. So this is a slightly longer screw compared to the one that will go into the other side of this I/O board. So we'll tighten that. Just again, keep it loosely. Make sure that all these connectors are lined up properly. Okay, I like to push this board to the wall of the motherboard. Then we'll grab the shorter screw and put that in to hold it in place. Okay, now we can put back this bracket here. Alright, so again, make sure this one has the tall black plastic walls, and then this one has the exposed pins here, and you want to have it mismatched. So this one goes that way, this one has the tall black plastic walls, and then this one has the exposed pins, so you want to line it up that way. Alright, just line it up, get the connector, push it down. Alright, and there's also this bend here on this other side, so if you want, that will help you know which side to put in where as well. Okay, so now we'll take this bracket, put that on top, take one screw, we'll put that one in first, get the other screw. Alright, again, we just put it loosely so that way we can make sure we have it lined up properly, and then tighten both of them down. Okay, now we'll get the other bracket, put it on this side. Same thing, get one screw, put it in loosely. Another one, put that in loosely. Alright, now take the last fan screw. So this one, it has like a wider part. I don't know if you can see, but there's a wider part with no threads on it. And that's how you know this is for the fan screw. It's also longer. Alright, put it loosely and then pull the fan close to the heatsink. Now we can tighten down all three fan screws. Alright, just like that. And the last one. Okay, then we'll take the silver screw. This one goes into the heatsink here. Alright. And then we'll take the last board, the last screw. This is for the I/O board. And we'll put that in as well. Alright, now we have to reattach the monitor or the screen. I'm going to put this USB back here so I don't forget. Alright, flip the computer over. Again, this is going to hang over the desk to make it easier. Just like this. Okay. Alright, so we'll grab the screen. Okay, make sure your hinges are opened all the way. If you're just replacing the screen, I have other videos that show that, but if your hinges are closed, you can use a screwdriver and then you can use it to pry the hinge open. Okay, I don't know if you were able to see that, but this, with the screwdriver, you can use it to maneuver the hinge. Okay. Alright, so let's put the hinge back in, just like this. Okay, what I like to do with this is, now we get, okay, let's get the T8 screwdriver. So what I like to do is, I'll put the screws closest to the middle of the laptop in first, okay? And put them in slightly tight, but not like too tight, because we are going to take it back out after. But I'll do this so that way I can make sure that the screen is aligned properly. Alright, once you got those two screws in, carefully, slowly close the screen. Alright, then you can set the computer down. And then what I do is I loosen the screw, both of them. Okay, now we don't need to have it so zoomed in anymore. There we go. All right, and then using that, you can line up the screen to make it flush. Okay, this one has a case on it, so it's going to be a little bit tricky to make sure it's flush, but I think that's good. Okay, so now that you got that, tighten the screws back down. We will take the screw back out because we're going to have to add some thread locker. So on the hinge screws, I always like to add red thread locker because the hinge screws on a lot of computers will come loose, and when they come loose, they end up damaging the hinges. Right, so we're going to take the hinge screw, add a little thread locker to it. Okay, and then we'll put the screw in. Then tighten it up. Alright, grab the other one. Same thing, and do this for all 6 screws, okay? Alright, once you got those 2 other screws in, take this other screw back out, add the thread locker, and then put it back in. Okay, just like that. Alright, again, repeat this with all the other screws, but for this, we want to reconnect this first, okay? So let me see if I can do a close-up of this. I'm going to flip the thing over so I can get a better view. Alright, so we got this. We're going to reattach the iSight camera first. Let me see if I can get a good close-up for you guys. Sorry, it's shaking around. Okay, so here you get the connector and just slide it into the slot. Okay, once you get it in the slot, what you do, I take my T5 screwdriver and then I push these little wings one by one, and I switch from one side to the other, okay, just like this, to rock it into place, okay. There we go, just like that, and now it's good. Alright, so now we are going to put the wireless antennas in. To do that, just line them up. Okay. And then when you have it lined up, if you move your fingernail or finger on top of it, it won't move around. Then you know it's good. Push it down. You should feel and hear a click. Alright. Alright. Do that for all 3 antennas. Hopefully you can see. I don't know. My hands are probably in the way, but doing the best I can. Alright. There we go. So now we got all 3 antennas in place. Let's zoom back out. Okay. Now you have to put these cables back in. Put the 3 antenna wires first. Alright, hold that in place, and then get the iSight or webcam cable and push that in place as well. The iSight camera will go underneath that little metal part that's extending out over the hinges. Alright, and then you can push the adhesive back down, put this rubber piece back over, and then push it back down on top. This helps keep the airflow from just flowing back into the computer. That's what that rubber piece is for. Okay, so I'm flipping this back over. Now we will put back the other hinge screws here. Okay, so make sure that these cables go underneath this metal hook here. If you don't, you might clamp it and damage the cables. Alright, so now we will put back the hinge screws. Just like this. Right, again, we're adding the thread locker. So this I'm going to put in loosely first. Take the other one. Alright, that way you can make sure it's not misaligned. Okay, then we'll tighten this one down. Just like that. Tighten the other one down. Just like that. Get this one back out. Add the thread locker to that one. Alright. Tighten that one down as well. Alright, now we need to put back those small little metal brackets. Okay, we'll flip this back over. Actually, let me reconnect the LCD or LVDS connector. So let's zoom back in here. So the LCD connector right here, right? Just grab the metal bracket, okay? Make sure that this tail goes underneath the little hook here, okay? So I just put that underneath the hook, and then pull it back, get it lined up, and then pull this metal bracket towards yourself, the latch, and then once you pull it in tight, then you can flip that latch back down. All right, now back to putting the metal piece back in. I don't even know if I can show this. Uh-oh, it's overheating. Man, I can't believe my phone overheated right when I was almost done. Anyways, so I'm back. All right, we're gonna put the little hinge things back in place. Just grab the little metal thing. Okay, put that back in. Line it up right. There we go. Get the screw, tighten it back in. Alright, we'll put back the rubber thing on top here. Alright, the part that sticks out goes towards the center. Go back and do the metal hinge thing on this side as well. Okay. Just like that. Okay. Turn that up. Put that one in as well. There we go. Now make sure you got everything reconnected, and then reconnect the battery connector. Okay, so line that up. Push the battery connector back down. Oops, sorry, I went off view. But you just line up the battery connector and push it back in. I'll take it out if you want to see, but just like that. Line it back up, push it back in place. Okay, take the metal cover, bottom cover, put it back on. All right, oops, wrong way, zoom back out, too much. There we go, make sure everything is in place. You want to test the computer before putting the stuff back in. All right, this one was having a problem where it thought the Alt key was being held down. Excuse me. I don't know if the battery's charged. I might have to charge it. All right, let me plug the MacBook in because it's not turning on right now. Okay. I'm going to plug this back in. Right, this part you probably don't really need to see anything from it, but I'm basically just going to plug that back in. I'm going to do a PRAM and SMC reset. So right now the light is orange, so Control, Option, Shift, Power button. As you can see, it makes the light go green, then it goes back orange. That's how you know the SMC reset worked. I'm going to check if the Option key is stuck like before, Control, Shift, Power, and it doesn't do the problem. Okay, so I think it's good to go. The battery's completely drained, so I'm going to leave this charging for a bit. Let me put the bottom screws back in while it's charging. Okay, so it's not going to turn on until the battery charges up quite a bit. Usually that's about 5-10 minutes. Okay, now we will take these screws and put them back. Again, the two screws towards the back on the hinge in the middle are shorter, so keep that in mind. You want to put that back the same way, okay? Right, this customer was missing a screw. I had a replacement, so I'm going to put the screw back in there that they were missing. Okay. Tighten that up. Alright, hopefully after I finish putting all these screws back in, it will turn back on. And hopefully the video quality will be good enough, because I am going to just merge the videos back together because it ended at such a short spot where it was already almost done. So having this as a part 2 is kind of going to be weird. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. Alright, this thing is not lined up properly, so I have to kind of maneuver it around. Might have to take the screws back out. Let's see. Is it gonna go in? Nope. Okay. Let me fix this real quick. off. Okay. Alright, there we go. This cover was a little bit bent, so let's put this back in. All the way. Okay, this one's going in a little wrong way. There we go. Make sure the clips are in. Alright, so now we got all the screws back in. That's pretty much all there is to this video. All I have to do is turn it back on, make sure everything's working okay, and we're good to go. Hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, please like and subscribe so that others can find these videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I don't think it's going to turn on still. The battery needs to charge more, but let's see. Yeah, it's still showing the battery charging. Alright, so anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.